have a question about the circle. Mine has dotted lines. I'm not sure if it's for a specific reason. It's not
Are
like
you in the sketch still?
I'm in sketch 2.
Okay.
Also.
So real quick, if you're, in case anyone is out of a sketch and wants to get back in it, you can right click on it in the tree over here and edit. And it'll put us back in there. Might have to click this to bring us there. So you say yours is dotted line. Did you perhaps hit this construction button somehow, or Q? Let's see what that looks like. That turns it into looking like this.
I don't know how that happened. But also, I'm not too sure how to you see at the top left, you have this undo, redo, and then the kind of square, and then a kind of donut. Just below OnShape, at the top left of your screen.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and there's this kind of donut. And when
this one?
There's a moment. Yeah, I have that donut, but I don't have the circle that you had before. Oh, actually, you have it now. I don't understand how to make it appear again.
You can, if you want, you can share your screen and show me what you're talking about.
Okay, let's do that. It's easy to get lost.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on screen. So,
do you see my screen?
Yes, I see it.
Nice. So I did a circle, and I think I killed it with the cross. Maybe I can make it come back. Oh no. I don't know how to bring it back, but.
Are you showing the OnShape screen? Because I just see.
Oh, you see the other screen?
I see, yeah, the other screen. Open grab.
Sorry, wrong screen. This one. Is this, you see?
Yep, I can see it now, yep.
Thank you. Where is it? Yeah, so the sketch 2 should allow me to draw a circle on it.
Oh yes, so right now you've gotten out of the sketch. So yeah, go ahead and edit. So you have to select a sketch plane. I must have glossed over that real quick. So yeah, go ahead and select the top of your box there, because that's where we want to base our sketch plane on.
This one?
Yeah. I'm not sure why you have. Yeah, don't select that mate connector thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So this is good. Face of extrude one. Okay.
Yep.
And now I can do the circle.
Right. Yep. And first I would orient your view so that you're looking normal to the sketch plane. Yep.
And now I can do the circle. Oh, magnifique.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. Thank you very much. Can be confusing.
All right. I'll reshare. And yeah, so this dotted line here is, so the sketch geometry that you place in the part can be either actual geometry that features will be based off of, or it can be for construction, which basically means that it won't be used to actually make things in 3D, but you can base other things off of it. So say I wanted to not have one big hole right here, but I wanted to have multiple holes that were all the exact same distance from the center point. I could put this circle down and have it just be a construction element, and then place additional circles on top of it. And I can do that by using this construction tool right here. But now we're back to this. So if everyone has this, we can exit that sketch, and I'll rotate so we can see. And now we're going to create another extrude, but instead of extruding and creating something, we're going to extrude to remove something. So if we select this circle that we just made, make sure we're on solid here. Not sure why I was on surface before. So there you go. You can see it defaulted to add, so it wants to create the cylinder coming out of it, but we want to remove. And then we can select, actually just do up to next, and it will automatically figure out that it wants to go to the back side of that box. And it will just punch out that. These other things, you can play with those later. There's just some more advanced things. But if we just hit check, then we're good to go on that. So we have, everyone should have this housing complete as we did before.
Woohoo.
And I realize that we're almost out of time. I will continue on giving this. If anyone has to drop off, they certainly can, and I will make sure that this recording gets sent out. So briefly, I will go over the, so here's some further reading. The tutorials for OnShape are very good. Also, you can use the, and I'll make sure this presentation is in the folder that everyone should have access to as well. So you can click these links. How to make almost anything course material has a lot more further reading. This link right here for SolidWorks, at least for MIT students, should bring you to that page where you can download it for yourself. This Fusion 360 one brings you to the sign up page, so you can get Fusion 360 for personal use. And then this last link is a much more advanced topic, but I think it's a very cool video showing kind of the depth of what you can accomplish using 3D CAD. So the problem set due next week is you're gonna make your own assembly like we're working through now, and which I'll finish. Just like we did today. It's totally up to you exactly what you're going to do. Ideally, it will be something that's somewhat related to your project, but it doesn't have to be something similar level of complexity to this. Using your choice of software. It does not have to be OnShape. And the requirements are for at least 2 parts. We've already made one of our part, and with at least 6 total features. So we've actually only done 2 features today. You can see this extrude and this extrude right here. Later I will be walking through how to get those other features in there. And then they'll be mated together in one assembly, which I will also be walking through. And then you'll provide screenshots of your completed assembly, several angles, an STL file of your completed assembly, and I'll be showing how to export that, and then a very, very basic 2D drawing with at least 2 views, and export that as a PDF. All right. If everyone's ready, we'll continue on. So we've made our first part, the housing. And now what we're going to do is we're going to make a separate part, and that will be the fan rotor. So down at the bottom here, we can insert a new element, and I will walk through these a little bit. We're going to be creating a part studio, which is just exactly like what we have, what we've started with. Assembly is a collection of parts. We'll be doing that afterwards. Drawing, we'll do that afterwards as well. That creates 2D drawing, as I showed earlier. And you can also create folders to organize things better, and import files from other programs, or like even pictures or something. If you wanted to import a picture to reference and place behind it, you could import a picture and scale it, tell it how big it is, and then you can draw on top of that as reference. But we're just going to start basic and do another part studio. We can rename this rotor. It's very helpful to keep things organized in your naming scheme, especially once you start getting a lot of parts in your assemblies. And we're actually going to start with a different type of operation as last time. So we just did 2 extrudes. The other, I'll take this time to walk through some of these tools up here. So extrude, you should know what that means by now. We create a 2D sketch and just push it outwards along some path. Revolve is kind of similar. You start with a 2D sketch, of course, but then you are revolving that around an axis. So that can be useful for things that are rotationally symmetric. Some of these other things, sweep, loft, they get a little bit more complicated. You can see there's a little divider here. The rest of these things, we'll get into them, but they do operations on already existing geometry, so you don't need to have a sketch to start with these, or at least some of them. So we're going to try to make this part now. Of course, there's many ways of doing it. You could start with like a large circle and then just remove material to get these blades. The way I'm going to do it is start with this inner circle, then add these blades to it. But that's kind of the freedom that you get with using this, is that you can do it however you're most comfortable and how you think. So there's many different ways of achieving the same result. And I'm actually going to use this opportunity to demonstrate the revolve function. Because just for this basic center part, I could create, say I wanted to use an extrude, I could create a circle and then just extrude it to make a cylinder, which is probably the easier way to do it, but just as an example to show how to use the revolve, I'm going to use that first. So start with a sketch, and then right now I'm thinking about how I want this part to be oriented, because I already have another part that I want to mate with. And this circle, the axis of this circle is along the z-axis. So I want to make sure that when I make this next part, the axis of that rotor is also along the z-axis. It's not critical that you do that, because in the assembly you can rotate them, but it just makes it easier, and it helps to think about how those parts are oriented when you make them. So I'm going to use this front plane this time, one of the default ones that's provided, as our sketch plane. So now we're looking at it from the side, and we can do normal. So you can see that there's this z-axis here is going up and down, and that's what we're going to make our cylinder around. So if you think about how you would make a cylinder from a 2D plane using revolve, we'll actually start with this rectangle again. I'm using corner rectangle this time. We're going to start at the origin. That's just, it's nice to be able to base things off the origin. You don't have to, but it helps you constrain things. And I will make it like this. So you can kind of imagine if I were to revolve this around this axis, then it would create a cylinder. And we'll show that in a second. So let's just add some dimensions here. We'll make this the same dimension or the same height as we did before for that hole, or for that box that we made. You can see that it scaled the aspect ratio as well. And then we can create dimension based on this. There should be a way, it's slightly more advanced, how to, I'm going to try something real quick. Dimension from here. In Fusion 360, which I'm more useful for, you can, if you know that you're going to be creating a revolved shape with this, you can actually tell it to, even if you click between this and this, you can actually tell it to do basically this symmetric dimension. So it will double that. So instead of dimensioning the radius, you'll dimension the diameter. I'm sure there's a way to do it in OnShape, but won't worry about that right now. So
you showed a mirror earlier There was this mirror.
Yeah, there's mirror, but that's not exactly what we want to do, because if we mirrored this and then revolved it, we'd actually have, you know, you'd have, say, the center of my hands is the axis. Then we'd have kind of like a duplicate if we rotate it for that full 360.
Oh, I thought that's what you wanted to do. Like instead of doing 360, you would just do 180.
Yeah, so that's another way you could do it.
I don't know how that helps.
Yeah, I don't. That might be another way. I don't typically do it that way. You could do it that way though. But for now, we'll just dimension this. So this, we just have to remember this is going to be a radius. So say we want our radius to be, or our diameter. So this is another instance where you can type in, you know, basic math into these input fields. So say I wanted the diameter to be 25. I know the radius is half the diameter, so I can just use 25 over 2, and that will automatically make it 12.5. So now that it's, all the lines are black, it's fully dimensioned. So we can exit this, and we can use this revolve tool. So it wants, first it wants the sketch region, which we just made right there. And then it wants this revolve axis. So we tell it which axis we want it to revolve around. Let's see, it's actually not, no. There we go. So I chose this edge of this. Sometimes it's helpful if you have like a little bit more complicated part, or a part that's not going to be right next to the axis of revolution, to just in your sketch add a construction line. As we talked about before, use that as your axis to revolve against. And we can check that, and I'll go ahead and hide these so that we can see. And now we have our cylinder. Does that make sense for everyone?
It worked.
Nice.
Just a second, trying. Can you run through that again? Or
So actually, I'll use this to roll back. This is a little bit more advanced topic, but I can move this little bar and move this back here. So now it's that this revolve function, this revolve feature that I made is still there, but it hasn't solved it yet. It hasn't computed that. So now I'm back to the sketch. Did you want me to go as far back as the sketch?
oh no, just how to do the revolve.
Just how to do the revolve? Okay, sure. So I'll move this here. I'll right click and edit this. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just delete this. So we'll start from that clean slate. So we click here, we can see that it says revolve. That means it's not ready yet. Make sure we're on solid, and it will automatically do new because it's the first body that we've created. Quick tangent, if we have more than one thing, it will typically default to add or remove. But if we made it as new, it would create a separate body so you could theoretically have two pieces of material that are within the same part, but they're not connected by any material. There's some reasons you would want to do that, but we won't get into that now. So it just asks you the face and sketch you want to revolve. So we'll select that, and the revolve axis. I had to click this again instead of just letting it proceed to the next thing to actually be able to select this this line right here. I'll zoom it a little bit more so you can see. And then it should make it. You got it?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So that is our hub of our fan. And now we want to make these blades or vanes. So the way I will do it is I will create another sketch, and we'll use just the regular extrude this time. So we'll make this our plane that we're working on. View normal, just so we're looking at it top down. And here I'll actually start. Let's start with I want to make a rectangle, so I'll just draw this in here somewhere. It's not in the final position. And then I know I want it to be, you know, basically in line with this center line of this, with the cylinder here. So to help me, I'm going to create a line, and I'm going to hold it. It'll try to snap to being exactly vertical. If I move it off, then it'll just put it at some arbitrary angle. But if I hold it close to vertical, then it will automatically snap there. I'll show you if you just create it arbitrarily like that, and I hit exit, it wanted to create another line based off this point. But now this is just an arbitrary line. I can either drag it so it's vertical, and it will automatically create that vertical constraint, or I can just use this vertical constraint up here, click that, click the line, and it automatically makes it vertical. Another thing I want to do is make this a construction element, because we don't want it to interfere with creating our geometry. You can see right now it's an actual element, and it's highlighting this region right here. We don't want that to interfere, so we'll hit this construction line, or you can hit Q, and it will turn it dashed, which means it's not interfering with the rest of these lines when we're creating something.
Sean, a couple questions. How do I just move this entire rectangle?
The one that we just made?
Yeah.
So make sure you're not selected anything, and you can just click in any blank space, and then you can grab it at anywhere. If it's blue, that means you can move it. So if I click here, I can drag this. If I click a point, then I can do this. Gotcha. If you wanted to do it all at once, then you could click all the sides and move it around like that. So, you know, I want to have this coming straight off the side of here. You can see we drew this line so I can make this symmetric about that. So what I'll do is select the outer two, and then the last thing I want to select is this line of symmetry that I want to use. And then I can use this symmetric constraint right here to do that. Now it doesn't look like it's changed much because all the lines are still blue. But you can see now that if I do this, these lines have to be the same distance away from that center line that we made. I will...
Excuse me, the symmetric icon doesn't appear on my screen again. I did what you say. I clicked in the white space, then the right, then the left, and then the center dotted line. But I don't have...
Do you see some of these? It might just be off the side of the screen.
My bad. My screen is just smaller, that's why. Okay. So then, sorry, what did you use? The symmetric. Oh, okay. Cool. Yep. Thank you.
And you're able to drag it like this?
Yes. And so I pressed the Q, and it made the construction thing. What is it? What does it mean, construction in this mode? Like, what is the difference between this and other? I don't understand what is this construction thing.
Yeah, so it just basically means that it's not going to try to use this line when we go and try to make our feature. It's not going to try to use that as a line. So if I left this as if I switch that back to non-construction geometry, now you can kind of see that it's highlighting this region right here. I wanted to extrude that, then it's cutting it off of this line. So I could leave that as non-construction and just select both of these regions and use that to create an extrusion.
So construction is kind of a temporary line that you could erase maybe later.
You could, yeah, but they're helpful to leave in.
Okay.
It's helpful to use them to make lines of symmetry, axes for revolution. Okay. Like we talked about earlier, if you want to make a bunch of holes on something that are all the same distance away from a point, then you could use a circular construction line.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you show the symmetry again?
Yep. So I'll actually remove this symmetrical constraint. So now it's not symmetric, and now I'm gonna the order in which you select these is important. So just make sure to select the line of symmetry last. So we'll select both lines that we want to be symmetric about, or that we want to be symmetric, and then the axis line that we drew, we'll select that last. And then you might have to scroll a little bit over if it's not showing up on your screen, but we'll click that symmetric constraint right there.
Okay.
Were you able to get it?
Yes.
The symmetry line is the parallel or the other?
It is this one here. You might, if you can see it on yours, Cedric had to scroll over on his in order to see it.
Okay. I
Click on the search tool on the right. It expands.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
For me, at least, it showed more.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Yeah, I have a 4K screen, so I've tried to make my little sub window smaller so it's it's more accessible. You can actually see things, but I think I have it still a little bit bigger than 1080p. So the next thing we can do is dimension the extent of our blade. So if we use this dimension tool, we can come from the center to here, and now we're created this. And now kind of the question becomes, well, how long do we want to make that? And if we're trying to fit this in that hole, we don't remember how big that hole was, or you know, when we made this hole, we didn't actually tell it the diameter of the hole. We dimensioned it off the side of here. So prior to Larissa's on-point question earlier about using this measurement tool, we wouldn't have known what the diameter of this is, but I'll just go over that real quick. We can use this measure tool down here. If it's behind the help, then just refresh your page so you can see it. I'm not sure why they put that help bubble over it. Then we just click anything in here. So if we click this circle, or we can click the inside edge of this hole we did, and we can see that it gives us properties about it. So the diameter, it also gives us some other things that could be helpful, like the area, and it also tells us the radius as well. And when you hover over that, it shows this black line on there, exactly what it's referring to. So now we know that this diameter is 90, the radius is 45. So if we go back into here,
sorry, I missed where you do the measure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's down the
it's
lower
down there.
right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we'll edit this dimension. So we're dimensioning, this will basically the radius of these blades here. The hole was 45, so we don't want to be rubbing up against the hole, so we'll just make it 44. And now that it's that long. We can also add the width of this blade right here. So call it 1 millimeter, for example. And so now we can see that most things are constrained, but we still have a few blue points, such as right here. This is on the construction geometry, so we don't really care about that. This can remain unconstrained. The other one, oops, I accidentally over-constrained. You can see that it turned red. If you have more constraints than is needed, it'll warn you to that. It'll turn everything red. So I hit Control Z to undo. And then this other point right here, this section here inside the hub, we don't really care about that since we're only going to be extruding the piece that's outside of the hub. So this can remain unconstrained. You might want to constrain it if you think you might be changing this diameter or something, because say if you change this so that it's half as big, then this would suddenly be, I have to zoom in to grab it, but this would end up outside that, and then you'd have disconnected parts. But for now, it's okay to leave things unconstrained as long as you know what you're doing and the important parts are left constrained. So we'll leave that like that. And that's actually going to be it for this sketch. We're not going to put, we're not going to, manually duplicate this for all the different blades. There's a nice patterning feature we can use. So I'll just hit check mark for that, and then we can look at our part here. That was orange in the middle because I had it selected, so I deselected it. And then we can use this extrude again, and we can select this region, and you notice how it's automatically selecting just all the way up to the edge of the circle because it knows that the edge of the cylinder is there. And we're going to use, so we click that. Since this is actually completely disconnected from this, it's only touching at this boundary line, it's making a new piece. But once we change this, we'll change this to up to, if we change it to up to next, like we did with the hole, it won't, there's nothing down there. You can see that it's trying to go that way, but it doesn't see anything that way, so it doesn't know how far to go. If we hit this other button, now it's looking the other way, but it still doesn't see anything that way. So we'll actually use up to face, and we want it to go all the way down to be parallel with this face here. So just make sure that we can select that, and it should automatically extend it, so we don't need to know how long that was. And note that up here, it changed from new to add because now it's connected to this, so it knows to keep this part of the same body within this part. So we can hit check mark there, and now we have this this weird looking monoblade fan. Everyone good?
Yes.
So now we will use another very important tool to duplicate this a couple of times around there, so we don't have to make a bunch of extrusions. So we will, if I can find it, here it is right here, linear pattern. So if we hit this little drop down, we can make a circular pattern. Linear pattern, if like you had like a bunch of holes you wanted to put in something, you could make one hole and then put them on a grid. But for this, we'll use a circular pattern. This is more advanced. You can pattern things along any arbitrary curve or path that you make, but we'll stick with the circular pattern for right now. So it brings up this little box again, just walks you through exactly what you want to do. Critically for this, we're not wanting to pattern a part because a part is everything. We're actually just wanting to pattern this one feature, this one extrude that we did. So we'll change this to feature, and that will allow us to select. Now we're not going to select in the UI for the geometry here, but we're going to select in the part tree over here. So we're going to select this extrude that we just made. You can also rename these so it's a little more clear. I typically don't unless it gets really big because it's typically pretty obvious. But so we'll select in the tree this extrude. So we're going to pattern this, and then we're going to select the axis we want to pattern again. We don't directly have an axis made that we can select, but it's smart enough and knows if we select the outside of the cylinder to use that, the axis of that cylinder. So we can select that cylinder, and now it's trying to make these things. OnShape requires this. Well, I won't get to that next. So first, we can change our instance count. You can pretty much make it whatever you want. I made it 8 in the first one, but we can make it 10 if we want. You have to click off of it to get it to recalculate. There you go. You could also put it not over the full 360 degrees of the circle. If I wanted to just go over half of it, then I could do that. You could also reverse the direction that it goes so it does it on the other side. But we'll do over full 360. We'll do 8 instances. You can leave it whatever you want. It's still red. So if we try to click the check mark, it's going to give us an error. Although it didn't pop up, but it didn't make it, and we can see that it's red over here. And it tells us why. OnShape is usually pretty good at telling you what's wrong. It says try selecting apply per instance option. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but if you do that, then it works. So that's how we get that.
Okay.
Is everyone here?
Yeah, Sean, I have a question. Back to the first part. It turns out that when I made the circular hole in the first part, the circular subtraction, I didn't do it to. I want to change now. So what do I do if I want to now change the diameter of this circle?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to share your screen and I can just walk you through it?
Yeah.
All right, I can see it. Yeah, so that whole operation is the extrude, and what it's based off of is the sketch. So if you right-click that sketch, you can edit it.
Oh, okay, right. Okay.
And okay, yeah. So see how it's red here? That means it's you have 2 dimensions on there, and that's over constrained it. So if you delete one of those, then that will solve it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And if you hit check, and then it should rebuild properly. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
So now we should have 2 parts. We have our rotor and we have our part studio, or we have our housing, is what we're calling it. Can rename that. And you can see that it's actually, when we made OnShape, it automatically made this assembly right here. So if we go into that, we can connect these 2 parts together.
And we're going to have a good surprise. I just did it, and I think we got 1 dimension wrong, and then I found how to fix it, and I'm super happy.
Oh, okay, good. And
let's see how it goes.
So we'll insert our housing. So I kind of went through that kind of fast, but up here, insert, and then it'll bring up this. And since it knows we already have these open in our current document, we can just click, and then we just move our mouse over to here, and we can place it down somewhere. Don't worry too much about getting it, like trying to orient it on the origin or anything like that. And then we'll repeat that with the rotor. So we can put that somewhere.
In my case, it magically appeared centered and perfectly placed.
Yeah, it did that for a brief second for me, and then it didn't. So
okay. Maybe if you remove them both, and I'm not sure how that worked for me, but
yeah,
selecting both, I don't know.
Yeah, get out of that. I'm gonna try it again.
Yeah, and I think I just clicked directly housing and rotor. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I just clicked and then didn't move.
Maybe escape. I think I know. When you click on housing, just click on rotor just afterward, apparently. I think that's it.
All right, I'll exit this again, and so we'll do that.
And rotor.
And that, and there you
escape.
Go.
I think if you do escape, oh yeah, that's good.
And then I can, well, no.
Oh no, sorry. I don't know what happened then.
I think if I just hit the check.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you don't have wrong dimensions. I had wrong dimensions, but I fixed them.
So it's your fault.
Yes, my bad, okay.
Okay, so yeah, that actually did exactly what I wanted to do, which is good in many cases. Yeah, but you can still see that we can actually move this around because they're not constrained with respect to each other. So in assemblies, those constraints are now called mates, and they can actually get pretty advanced. And you can constrain things to each other, but they can be rigid, and kind of getting back to Matt's lecture, if you have a couple of different constraints on something, then it will totally fix it in position. But if you have less than that, then you can have something that is a mechanism or moves. We're not going to get actually that advanced today and have our fan blade spin, but we will use this Cylindrical Mate. And essentially what this does is it will allow us to align two axes of cylindrical shaped things. So we'll open up this little box. We click on the side of the cylindrical surface that you want to connect. So we want basically this center hub to be centered within this housing. So if we click, sometimes it helps to zoom in because it wants to select other things. But we'll click on this one, and we'll also click on this one. And that should align them automatically. And we can hit check, and now it will automatically do like that. But you can still see it's not line these up so that these top surfaces are parallel. So it will automatically try to make another mate, so we can X out of that. So you can see that now we're constrained on the axis, but we can still move this around. So what we'll do is we'll use this planar mate to mate this plane and this plane. This little symbol right here kind of jumps around a lot, but I try to use the orange outlines to actually figure out what I'm selecting. And seems to have screwed it up. Let's see if, yeah. If you hit check, it should solve it based on all of the constraints that we've applied to it. Was everyone able to get there?
Yes. Super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
So
cylindrical mate. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have an issue. So cylindrical mate, I'm looking to mate the side of the cylinder center.
Yeah, you want to share your screen again?
Can you see? I'm not sure what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah, I can see now.
Oh,
Yeah, so you want that.
this,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
as well as
So you want to put it inside the housing that we made. So that cylindrical inner surface of that. That might also work, but I try to select like the actual surface and not the 2D circle. Like the wall of the hole. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep, there you go.
And then solve, and then okay.
Yep. And if you want to add the planar mate to line up the top surface of that fan with the top surface of the housing. So you can actually, you could get rid of that with the X, or you could, little drop down where it says cylindrical, you could have changed it to planar. But yeah, one to the left is the planar. Yep. So now we'll select. Mm-hmm. And then that one.
Gotcha.
And there you go.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So you can imagine that, you know, this was a fairly brief overview, but definitely you can use what you've learned to create much more complicated things. You know, there's certainly a lot more tools available, a lot more mates. If we go back to here, a lot of different operations that you could do. One that we'll go over real quick, because right now, because I said you need 6 features, total features for your homework, and we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll count the pattern as a feature. 5 features. So some of these over here do operations directly on 3D geometry without needing a sketch. So this is a fillet. Chamfer is kind of similar, but you know, say we want to round off an edge. We can just hit this fillet tool, and we'll want to select our entity to fillet. So we could select, let's do this right here, and it's going to automatically round off that. So there's a lot of helpful little helper tools that you can do things like that. Some of the more advanced things you can change it from a circular cross section to other types of curvatures. Vary your radius. You can also do it in the user interface. You can move that. You can see how it's, even though it intersects the edge of here, it still kind of propagates beyond there. But we'll keep it at 5 millimeters for now. You can see that it made that. And so then now we've actually edited our part separate from our assembly. But if you go back the assembly, it might do a little bit of loading, but then it's automatically updated in there. So now we have that should be basically exactly what I created last night. Any questions?
Can you show again the fillet? I was a bit late.
Sure, yeah.
I'm sorry, just where it started.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess I can search in tools, maybe. Fillet.
Yeah, you could definitely search in tools.
All right.
Uh-huh.
And then 5 millimeter. All right, magic.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And then if I go to the assembly, it is updated.
There you go.
Maybe I can share my screen. I also have a question.
Sure, yeah.
How do I do that? Yes, this one. So you see my beautiful fan?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
yep.
Cool. I was wondering if there was a way to have a rotation. I assume it's probably this one, according to this axis, and having this one fixed. I tried saying, okay, I just want that this can rotate, but I don't know how to make it rotate.
Yeah, good question. I actually haven't gotten that far
Okay.
last night.
Okay.
Certainly play around with it. Yeah, all the softwares are a little bit different. The basics is the same, but exactly what they call things is typically a little bit different.
Yeah,
so,
can imagine.
I think you might have to start with like taking the housing, for example, and like totally fix it in place so that can't move.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what mate that would be.
I found that, so I looked, apparently that we can generate pieces or parts in JavaScript. And I think that there might be a way to animate them. But I just found that video and I have to check. But some people were suggesting different ways to do it online. It doesn't seem that simple to say.
Yeah.
To me, it makes sense. If you make something that's supposed to rotate, it would be good to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, still to do.
Well, yeah, the good thing is that OnShape, as well as really all of them, have pretty good tutorials that you can access. OnShape seems to have some really good tutorials, though. That series that I linked, that hopefully if you're logged in, that link I gave you should get to it. But I also linked to it in the slides. So,
nice.
But it'll walk you through the basics from the user interface, which I briefly looked at today, to some very, very, very advanced things. So
Great.
That's what I have. I already walked through the homework too, and also I'll make these slides, make the slides available. If there's any questions you have that pop up after this, definitely email me or get into contact with me, and we can even set up a call to go over something.
To generate a drawing.
Oh, right. Yes. Thank you. I will go over that real quick. All right, so if we go back to if we add a new element, I showed before, but we'll create a drawing. It gives you quite a bit of options for the different templates for drawing templates and things. Actually, there's only one option this time. I'm not sure why. Last night there was a bunch of options.
A lot.
Yeah,
okay.
I have more than you, strangely.
I think you should go to select OnShape on the left, not recently opened.
That's why, yep. There you go.
Cool.
So since we're in millimeters, let's select the millimeters. Create that.
So how do you know what those things are? Portrait? Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of these are like kind of standard drawings that are just like industry standards, like the portrait, that's the aspect or the orientation of
Okay.
the page, as well as like the page sizes, because these are designed to be printed, you know, at some scale or one-to-one on actual paper. So they're set up to be exactly like this. I think this is A size. Yeah, size A right down here. So you see it brings up this. I didn't fill out any of this stuff, but this might look familiar if you've looked at any sort of drawing before, so you can fill those out. But all I'm really requiring is that you're able to show that you can open up the housing, or actually, so you could do individual parts, which would be helpful if you're sending this off to be machined or something like that. For now, we'll just show the assembly view. So we'll click over here to show the assemblies in our document that we have open here. And if we click on that, it should just be able to drag something over. Although it looks like it's just selected a view from the side, which isn't very helpful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that. Somehow you can delete it. And we'll just take this on the tree, delete it from there. And then I will add a view and choose this assembly. And then, yeah, here we go. We can choose our orientation. So we start with the top view. And you can see it's loading in. And there it now goes. So now we can just place that down. And it'll create that view for us. Now if we actually, we don't click on anything and we pull away, it'll automatically create those kind of side views. So we can actually just do that and use that. Or else you could go and create another view using the insert view and create like an isometric view. And then once you're selected out of that, then you can take these and drag them around.
How does it choose? I've got some weird one. I don't have the same suggestions as you.
Yeah, I think it tries to,
Looks random.
Based on where you've pulled it away, to do that. I didn't actually go over, I didn't do this last time, but you can also, it's very important that you add dimensions. So you can add these dimensions, and now instead of like before when we were in the sketch, we were telling it how big it needs to be. Now we're showing how big it is. You can actually see that since if I tried to select this top line here, it won't let me do it because there's this intersection here. So now is another good time to select between two entities. So I click here and here, and now that I say now that someone who's wanting to make this can see that that's 100 millimeters long. There are also some more advanced views like section views. So if we're looking at this from the side, it's just going to look like a very simple rectangle. But if we want to look at a cutaway through it, we can use this cutting line. I'll do a horizontal, and we'll just place that right there. And now if I click over here, once it loads, you can see that it's created that section right there. It's still not super interesting to look at because we're just looking right along here. But you can see that there's that fillet that we made earlier. So there's lots of different views you can make with that. Anything that's more advanced than this definitely meets the requirements of the problem set, though. So I think that's it.
Can you show again? Sorry, how to see the little fillet thing? I just have the square.
Yeah, how to create the section view.
Yeah.
So it's this up here.
Section.
And then it might be selected vertical, but you can change it to horizontal.
Horizontal.
And then it will create this line on here. So we can select around the center and it'll automatically snap to that center point. And then it's still taking a little while to load, but then once it does, or you can click before it's done loading, and it'll create this section view with the hash marks to let you know that it's a section. You can see that curvature in there.
Ah, and I selected it with the pals, but you found a way to only select without the rotating thing, the rotor. Is it?
Oh, you want to not have, you want to have only one part?
No, I think, yeah, exactly. The way you're, oh no, it's just because I have a different rotation. Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you didn't use 8 blades, then you might have,
yeah,
it might be slightly different.
It's a bit different, but it's fine. I like it. Thank you very much.
And my final question, how do I pan across this view?
Yeah, so in this view,
not necessarily in here, although maybe that's not trivial either, but just like in housing or in any of just looking at a feature or something. When I zoom in, I end up looking at one particular.
So you want to do this right here? Yeah, so I'm pressing and holding the middle mouse button, the scroll wheel, and then moving my mouse.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
And there is a way to, you can change those if you want. All the CAD tools are slightly different. Like some might be right click to pan and middle click to rotate around like this, but.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thanks so much.
So that should be everything. And then, yeah, let me know if there's any other questions that come up later. And
if we want to export
Yep, yeah. Thank you. Yep. Okay, yeah, one last thing. So so for exporting, you can right click down on the tabs down here, and there's an export.
All right.
So you can name it, you can change what the format is. I will say for the assembly, because I want this all as one STL file, so you will have to go in here to export and then uncheck this box where it says export unique parts as individual files.
Okay.
And that'll create just one. And for the drawing, same thing. You can go to that tab, export, and it should automatically do PDF, but you could choose some other formats as well.
Beautiful.
Where's the export button?
It is if you right click on the tab name.
Oh, okay.
Appreciate letting me know of the things I missed.
Well, it looks like we saw everything.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Apologize, this went a little long, but glad I could answer everyone's questions and go over everything.
Yeah, that was great. So see you next week?
Yep. And if you have anything in the meantime, let me know. I'll make sure this stuff is uploaded in the folder. If it's not, let me know.
Good. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for coming.